Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. It's that time of the week again. It's Premier League predictions time. Another round of Premier League action is almost upon us. It's a midweek round of action this week. A lot of football to sink our teeth into and to feast our eyes upon. That is going to be entertaining and intriguing to say the least. It's going to affect the entirety of the Premier League table. There are some huge games in this round of fixtures and I cannot wait for it all to get started from Tuesday right the way through till Thursday. Before we get into all of that though and talking about the games, analysing them and of course giving predictions, I would like to remind you to please like the video and also subscribe if you're new. Both things are always and very greatly appreciated, and of course I encourage you guys to get involved in the comment section down below. Let me know your thoughts, comments, opinions, but most of all of course this is a prediction show after all, so do get involved with your predictions down below as well. Would love to hear from you all. I'm sure it'll make for great and interesting reading, but without further ado, let's get on with the predictions. And we're starting off with Tuesday's game. Nottingham Forest taking on Arsenal at the City Ground. I've gone with a 3-1 victory in favour of the Gunners here. The Gunners were very impressive in their last outing against Crystal Palace. Forest, of course, I can't remember what they did in the last game, to be perfectly honest. But of course, it's been a bit of a inconsistent start for Nuno Espirito Santo. They lost 3-2 to Brentford, of course. They lost 3-2 to Brentford in their last Premier League outing, of course. Drew 0-0 in the FA Cup last weekend, of course. So, not to really be contend with here. And obviously, we know that Forest at home can sometimes be a very difficult opposition for most teams. But I don't think Arsenal will have much of a problem here. I thought they'd have a bit of a problem when they faced Crystal Palace. And I thought the pressure and the nerves would get to them, especially after being on a bit of a bad run of results in recent weeks. But they managed to obviously put Crystal Palace to the sword on that day. And move on very quickly. And they've got a very good opportunity to put together back-to-back wins for the first time this year in this particular instance. So I think Arsenal will get the victory. I think they will get the 3 points. Forest, like I say, no pushovers. I do expect them to get a goal against Arsenal, but I think Arsenal will be out of sight by that point and should get the job done. Because remember, it's not about it's not the performances that have been bad in Arsenal's case of the past few weeks. It's been their results, and they haven't managed to put teams away. And I remember earlier on this season, this is actually the round of fixtures that kicked off the new Premier League campaign. So earlier on this season, of course, we saw Arsenal beat Nottingham Forest by 2-1. They were comfortable for about 70 odd minutes, and then the final 20 minutes Forest did have a go at Arsenal, but I expect it to be different this time around. I expect Arsenal to be a bit more comfortable and for Arsenal to get the 3 points, the 3 goals to make it 3-1 in favour of Mikel Arteta's side and put real pressure on the teams that are above them to obviously get their jobs done this weekend. So Arsenal to get the ball rolling this weekend with a victory. Next, we move on to Fulham against Everton, a Premier League classic this one. And I've gone for a 2-1 victory in favour of Everton. Now, a draw could easily be seen in this game, as well as a Fulham victory. But Fulham's performances have obviously dipped in recent weeks, and Everton's have as well. But I just think Everton probably have a bit more to show for it. I could have easily gone with a 1-1 draw. In fact, that was probably the result I was going for before I kicked off this video and changed it at the last minute. So watch it now become a 1-1 draw. But no, I just think that Fulham's performances have been very poor in recent weeks. They show flashes and glimpses here and there, but it's not enough on a consistent level to really warrant anything strong. And Everton always have that fight within them from time to time. I know they haven't got the best away record, but at the same time, I still think they may have enough firepower up front and there may be enough about them to get the job done in this game. Like I say, not entirely confident with this one. This is genuinely a game which could go any which way. But I am going to lean more towards Everton and say that the Toffees come out of this one as 2-1 winners, and therefore they get the 3 points. I'm not expecting a Premier League classic here, even though the two teams may have history of a Premier League classic. Not expecting anything flashy or fancy. I'm just expecting a very physical, very direct game of football that both teams we know can play from time to time. So, yeah, 2-1 victory to Everton is what I'm going for in this game. Next up, we've got Luton Town taking on Brighton. And I've gone with a 3-1 victory for Brighton in this one. Don't get me wrong. Luton at home are going to be tough opposition. Every team that's gone there has found that out about them this season. They've given every team that's gone to Kenilworth Road an absolute run for their money. And it's been brilliant to see at times, and it's been a very valiant and brave display by Luton on all of the occasions. But I just think Brighton just play too good football, and are too good to not take the 3 points in this one. It may struggle at times, and it may take a while for Brighton to get used to the atmosphere and used to the ground and everything. But I think eventually De Zerbi will manage his way out of this one. It wouldn't be out the realms of possibility for Luton to get something from this game, but like I say, I think Brighton have got too much firepower up front and play too much good football for them not to create the chances that they won't be able to take in the end. So I see Brighton winning this game. I see them creating a ton of chances, but they always do concede. So Luton will get a goal. Brighton, though, will get 3 to make it 3-1 to Brighton and a victory for Roberto De Zerbi's side. Next up, Crystal Palace taking on Sheffield United. Tough game to call this one. Sheffield United under Chris Wilder can be quite difficult at times. They, of course, got a 2-2 draw in their last game against West Ham, leaving it very late with some late controversy as well to boot. Palace, of course, need a reply and response from that 5-0 hammering that they took at Arsenal a couple of weeks ago as well. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for both of these sides. I think it won't, again, I don't think it will be the best game you'll ever see because I see it being a game filled with nerves. Obviously, Sheffield United will need the points to obviously put towards their relegation battle. Palace should be okay, but again, there is pressure growing on Roy Hodgson as we speak. And obviously, with that 5-0 hammering they took, like that's not going to add anything positive to his case or to the case of his team and his club and everything. So it's going to be a tough game. It's going to be a game full with nerves, I imagine, but I imagine that they could come away with a point apiece. It wouldn't be out of the realms of possibility for either side to go on and nick this. But I am going to go with a draw. I'm going to say 1-1, and I'm going to say that just as an added bonus, Ben Brereton Diaz gets on the score sheet for Sheffield United. I think he's fit for this one, so I'm pretty sure he'll probably have some sort of say in this game as well after obviously scoring on his debut a couple of weeks ago. Next up, Aston Villa against Newcastle. Now this one is going to be a quality game in my opinion. I look forward to this one especially. Newcastle's away form isn't exactly great. One of the worst away forms in the Premier League right now against one of the best home forms in the Premier League right now. I still think Aston Villa are impeccable at home. I still think they're unbeaten away at home. I think they've only suffered maybe a draw or two at home this season, but their home form is still solid as a rock. They meet a Newcastle side who, like I say, haven't had the best of away forms, and that's why I'm going to go with a 2-1 victory in favour of Aston Villa. Now, it isn't out of the realms of possibility, again, for Newcastle to get something from this game, but as history does show this season, the Magpies do not travel well. Aston Villa at home are solid. They are strong, and I highly doubt we're going to get a repeat of what happened earlier on this season in the reverse fixture of this game in which Newcastle absolutely tore Aston Villa apart at St James's Park. I highly doubt we're going to get a repeat of that, which is why I've gone for a 2-1 victory in favour of Aston Villa, and I think that Unai Emery's side can get the victory here and get their season back on track after what's been a few difficult weeks in terms of results, obtaining good results in terms of not drawing, shall we say. But it's been tough for Villa. It's been tough for Newcastle as well. But I do imagine Aston Villa will get the job done in the end. Like I say, don't rule out Newcastle by any stretch of the imagination. I expect this to be a fascinating game of football. But I just think Aston Villa will just about edge it. But again, that high line of Aston Villa's could cost them. So we'll wait and see how it goes. But I think the home form the home crowd and everything else to go along with Villa Park will play into Villa's hands, and it will cost Newcastle at the end. So I'm expecting a great game of football, but Villa to get the 3 points. Wednesday's games, we start with Manchester City against Burnley, and I've gone with a very comfortable 3-0 victory in favour of Pep Guardiola's side. I think this is probably one of the more favourable games to call this weekend, and I think it will be quite comfortable for the City side known as Manchester City. Earlier on this season, in a reverse fixture, City won 3-0 at Turf Moor to kick off the campaign for everybody, and of course for the newly promoted Burnley as well. Burnley actually played decently in that game. I didn't think Burnley were too bad, and I don't think Burnley have played that badly all season. It's just that they don't have the quality in the areas that it matters most, to not only to stop leaking goals, but also to score them as well. And that's why I see another kind of another poor result here. And maybe another game in which they will cause City some food for thought at times. They will obviously cause City some problems, maybe on the counter-attack. But at the same time, I think City have the players to deal with them issues, as well as go on and score a few goals as well. And I just don't think that Burnley have enough quality about them to neutralise City's threats and to obviously score a few goals themselves, which is why I've gone with that 3-0 victory in favour of City, and I think Pep Guardiola's side are going to come out as 3-0 winners and put real pressure on Liverpool before, well, I say before, they're playing at the same time, so to put pressure on Liverpool as they obviously will take on a mighty foe later on that night. Next up, Tottenham against Brentford. I've gone with a 2-2 draw, the same scoreline that it was at the beginning of the season, if I'm not mistaken. Spurs play some great football, we know that, but they also tend to leak goals at times. And I think with the newly reintroduced Ivan Toney to the Brentford lineup, I think he could cause some real issues for that Spurs back line. And that's why I've gone with a 2-2 draw. Brentford at times we know can play some good football, and we know that against a team like Spurs, with the way that Spurs like to play, they can be extremely dangerous on the counter-attack. And I think that Spurs' game plan will play into Brentford's hands, as well as maybe Spurs obviously being still dangerous to play against for this Brentford side. So I think this one is going to be a very entertaining game of football. It could go a little bit under the radar, and it's one that I'm personally looking forward to. I know that there's got a lot more football, and particularly for my eye, especially being on the Liverpool game, a lot more football that I'm going to be watching. But I think this game could definitely be an entertaining game to watch if you are obviously a fan of one of these two, or in fact a neutral of the Premier League. I think this one could definitely be a very intriguing game, to say the least. But I am going to go with a 2-2 draw. If I had to lean more towards a winner in this game, I am going to lean more towards Spurs. But I genuinely do think that with the inclusion of Ivan Toney back in the Brentford side, I do think that Spurs and Brentford will have to share the points in this one. So a 2-2 draw is what I'm going for. But again, it could be a very intriguing and exciting game of football we have on our hands at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. West Ham against Bournemouth. I believe I'm jumping forward now into Thursday's games. I've gone with a 2-1 victory to Bournemouth. Now, I wasn't entirely confident with this one. I know that West Ham have been playing not the best and prettiest football on the eye, but they have been getting the results when they matter most, and they've been taking their chances when they fall to them. Which has obviously been helping them towards producing a very good points tally so far this season, and why they are so high up the table. But with Bournemouth, past couple of games, they've obviously fell away a little bit. They've obviously lost some big games to the likes of Tottenham and Liverpool in the Premier League. They need to get back to winning ways, and I believe that they will. And I think against this West Ham side that are going to sit back and let them play their football and try and hit them on the counter-attack, I do think we may have another intriguing game on our hands here of two very contrasting styles of play. Dominic Solanke will be looking to get back amongst the goals on a Premier League basis, of course. Whilst, of course, for West Ham, they have the likes of Jared Bowen and obviously their new signing, Calvin Phillips. I'm sure this will be a very intriguing game to obviously have him make his debut in. So that one could be interesting to watch as well. So I am expecting an intriguing game in which, obviously, if I'm being honest, I am probably leaning more towards a draw, but I think Bournemouth may just edge it. So again, this one could go any which way, but I'm leaning more towards Bournemouth, and I'm going to say that this game ends 2-1 to the Cherries. Dominic Solanke to get back on the score sheet for Bournemouth. So we'll see, obviously, how that goes. Wolves against Manchester United is our penultimate game. Molineux awaits these two, and I'm going with a 2-1 victory in favour of Wolves. Now, a draw very well could happen, but as we've seen time and time again, teams go to Molineux and teams struggle at Molineux, and Wolves play some great football from time to time. It's often their finishing that does let them down on a consistent basis, but I think they'll have enough about them to get the job done in this one. I expect Højlund to score for Manchester United, and I do think that they'll still have plenty of fight within in this game at least. I still think they'll have plenty of opportunities, shall we say, rather than fight to hurt and punish Wolves, as Wolves haven't got the best defence, but they are still very strong in the way that they play their football and the way they move through the middle of the pitch. But I would strongly expect United to still score, but I don't think they have enough about them defensively to keep out a Wolves side that often create a ton of chances, and especially when they're playing at home with the crowd up, it is possible that Wolves will get the job done. A draw again isn't at the Rams' possibility. Even United to maybe have one of them days where their match winners step up and come to the forefront to obviously win them the game. That isn't out the realms of possibility as well. But my gut is telling me that Wolves at home get the job done, and that is why I have gone with a 2-1 victory in favour of Gary O'Neill's side. So, there is a little bit of hope in there, I will admit, but mainly gut instinct. I'm hoping that Wolves can pull off an incredible victory at Molineux, at their home ground, against Manchester United. And finally, in what I believe to be the biggest game of this round of fixtures, the main event of this round of Premier League action, we're jumping back to Wednesday night's game. It is Liverpool against Chelsea. A Premier League classic that in recent years hasn't quite delivered what it anticipates and what it expects. You've got a Liverpool side and a Chelsea side who in their recent games, I think in their past 5 or 6 games or something like that, have produced draws. A couple of them have been entertaining. A few of them have been downright boring. As long as we get goals in this one, neutrals shouldn't matter. But as long as Liverpool win by hook or by crook, I'm not bothered either. So a boring 1-0 win is what I'll settle for. Obviously, this is a bit of a dress rehearsal before the Carabao Cup final that these two teams are set to play out at the end of next month, of course. I'm very intrigued by this one. Chelsea normally turn up to play against Liverpool. No matter what kind of form Chelsea are in. Chelsea could be in scintillating form. Chelsea could be in extremely poor form. Chelsea could be in inconsistent form. Chelsea always turn up for a game against Liverpool. It's just the way that it is. I'm intrigued and anticipating possibly another exciting game. I'm hoping another exciting game. This is the first major test of a big team for Liverpool that they've faced without the likes of Mohamed Salah. Fortunately for the Reds, that they do have returning players in the form of Dominic Szoboszlai and Trent Alexander-Arnold, and Andy Robertson's back as well, and Liverpool are starting to get their big players back for this one. So it's going to be interesting to see how Liverpool set up this one, whether they throw some of them players back into the deep end or not, especially with obviously how well Conor Bradley's done at right back. That one's going to be interesting. Does Joe Gomez switch to the right back position in favour of Andy Robertson being left? Does Trent go back into the team almost instantaneously? It's going to be very interesting to work that out. Curtis Jones is in some great form as well. Dominic Szoboszlai is obviously waiting in the wings to pounce back on his return. So there's a few interesting and intriguing questions to ask of Jurgen Klopp and whether or not this is how he's going to set up his team for this one. This is obviously the continuation, shall we say, of the swan song of Jurgen Klopp following his major blockbuster, ground-shattering announcement that he made last Friday, in which he said he would be leaving Liverpool at the end of the season. A win against Chelsea here would be bliss. It would maintain Liverpool's stance at the top of the table, of course. And, of course, with Manchester City playing Burnley, you would imagine that they're going to probably pick up the 3 points as well, with all due respect to Burnley. So this is a big game for Liverpool to obviously maintain the distance between themselves and City. Otherwise, I think it is advantage City, with obviously them having a game in hand over the Reds. So it's a massive game, this one. But on the Chelsea side of things, look, we know that Pochettino can play some great football. It's just about whether or not they're going to take their chances when they come to them. I think Liverpool's defence in recent weeks has shown that they can neutralise the threats of Chelsea, and they can really put them to the sword if they are of the clear-cut decision-making that we know that Liverpool can be. If they're devastating best, we know that Liverpool can put Chelsea to the sword. It's just whether or not they're going to. I know that they come into this game with plenty of players in good form. Like I say, Conor Bradley and Joe Gomez aside, Diogo Jota's been in some absolutely great form since his return from injury, and he continues to get on the score sheet throughout. Darwin Núñez has started to find the back of the net on a bit more of a consistent basis. I hope I'm not jinxing that by saying that right now, but he's in some good form as well. So it's all about whether or not those players are going to be in good goal-scoring form, in the right decision-making kind of form to obviously take their chances, and whether or not the defence is going to be strong enough to neutralise Chelsea's attacking force. So it's going to be intriguing. It's going to be a big battle, particularly in that midfield area, but one that I am pretty confident Liverpool can get on the winning end of. I don't think it's going to be pretty by any stretch of the imagination. I think we're going to have to survive some scary moments, and obviously Chelsea are going to create a ton of chances because both teams are going to play into each other's hands a little bit. So Chelsea are going to create some good opportunities that it's going to be interesting to see if they take. Liverpool are going to create a ton of opportunities that I hope they're going to take. But in the end, I think it is going to be a 2-1 victory in favour of the Reds. I've gone with a 2-1 Liverpool win in this one. Jurgen Klopp to get the 3 points and to get and to maintain their stance at the top of the table. I also think the Anfield crowd will help them along with that. Big test for both of these sides for different reasons, but I do think the Reds will come out on top. And there you have it. There you have it for the games for this match day, for this Premier League round of fixtures. Those are just the thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it, of this guy. I want to know what you guys think. What do you make of all of the games coming up this weekend or this week in another round of exciting and intriguing Premier League fixtures? What are your own thoughts, your comments, opinions, but most of all, of course, what are your predictions on each and every single game to come up in this midweek game of in this midweek round of Premier League fixtures? Let me know in the comment section, because I'm sure all of them predictions will make for great and interesting reading, I'm sure. Otherwise, hit the like button on the way out if you enjoy the video. Subscribe if you're new or want to see more content like this. Both things are always very greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. This has been another Premier League predictions video. Thank you all so much for watching and listening, and I'll talk to you again very, very, very soon. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for stopping by. Take care. Have a good rest of your day, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Peace.